Hello, and welcome to this video on evaluating sources using the 5 Ws. We all search for information all the time. We read news to know what's going on in the world, look up store locations, search for instructions, and try to find research for school projects. No matter what kind of information we're looking for, we need to make sure we can trust it. How do we make this decision? That can be complicated, so it's important to look at several factors. Here are 5 questions you can ask to help you decide whether a source is reliable and right for your information need. The first is who. Who created the source? What authority does that person, group of people, or organization have to present on this topic? What are their credentials? Authority might come from an academic degree, from career experience, or from life experience. A first-hand account from someone living through an event is a different kind of authority than an investigative journalist interviewing someone for a news article, which is a different kind of authority than a professor writing about that event for an academic journal article. None of these is necessarily better, each has its own place and purpose. Different kinds of authority and credentials are useful for different types of information needs. You should also consider whether the creator of the source is connected to an organization or company that might compromise their ability to stay objective. The second question is what? What is the purpose of the source? Who is the intended audience? Is it written for researchers, nurses, the general public, train enthusiasts? The audience has an impact on the purpose, content, and complexity of the writing. Is the source informing, selling, entertaining, persuading? For example, The Onion is a parody news site whose purpose is to entertain its readers. That doesn't make it a bad source, but it does mean we shouldn't use it if we're looking for factual news articles. You should also consider whether the source is presenting fact or opinion. Reliable magazines, newspapers, and journals often have sections for editorials or opinion pieces, which present a particular author's opinion on a topic rather than news or research. Look for bias in the source. Does it appear to be objective? Is it from a perspective that might affect the way it presents information? For example, a Catholic magazine probably isn't going to publish an article opposing the Catholic point of view. This doesn't necessarily make that magazine biased, but we should keep those things in mind when using an article from it. Some sources have biases that affect their reliability. An extreme example of this is a website on Martin Luther King Jr. that was created by a white supremacist group. The biases of that group make their reliability on the topic of Martin Luther King Jr. very suspect. The third W is where. Where does the information come from? Does the source even list their sources? Do they use any evidence to support their claims? Some sources will have footnotes or a works cited list, while others will only list the sources in the text, like newspaper articles. Are the sources they list appropriate to the topic and level of the source? An academic article that only cites Wikipedia, or a news report that is solely based on people's opinions, probably isn't very reliable. A quick skim through the sources, whether in the text or in the works cited list, can give a picture of where the information comes from and help you decide if it looks reliable or not. Consider whether the source presents only one side or perspective, which could point toward a bias and mean there is information missing that would help you more fully understand the issue. This doesn't mean every source can or should cover every aspect of a topic, but presenting differing arguments shows that they've considered more than just their own perspective. The fourth W is when. When was the source published? See if there is a publication date listed. Consider the kind of information you need. Some topics need very current information. For example, if you're writing about social media, you'll probably need a source published within the last couple of years. Other topics require older sources. If you're researching a historical event, you might need something created at the time of the event. And sometimes you'll have a project where the publication date doesn't really matter. Sometimes, when the source was published has an impact on its reliability. Something written about medical treatments from 20 years ago might include information that is now inaccurate or dangerous. But an article from 20 years ago about Romeo and Juliet might still have useful insights. When you think about the publication date, consider the kind of information you need, the field of study, and the requirements of your assignment. The fifth and final W is why. Why is this source useful to you? You need different sources for different information needs. A source that might be good for one situation would be bad for another. Is the information at an appropriate level for your needs? Something written for elementary school children might be reliable, but would be too simplistic for a college paper. There are also many scholarly articles written for advanced or specific scholarly audiences that might be too complex for the project you're working on. Make sure the information helps answer your research question or develop your topic or argument. It doesn't matter how reliable a source is if it's not pertinent to your research. Look for a variety of sources offering different information or perspectives, so each source you use adds something unique to your research. These 5 questions are a good place to start when evaluating a source for reliability and appropriateness to your research situation. Evaluating a source can't be done with just one of these questions. Ask all of them as you decide whether you should use a source or not. And if you have questions about a specific source, you can always talk to one of the librarians or to your instructor. You can email us at askalibrarian@kings.edu or find us online at www.kings.edu/academics/library.